All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are locked on Falcons. I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, and today I am joined once again by the former co host of the Locked On Falcons podcast, now with Odyssey. I'm talking about Alan Strk, and we are continuing part two of our Falcons all-time draft series to wrap up our offensive picks.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, guys, you know me. I'm Aaron Freeman, been covering the Falcons for many years, formerly at FalcFans.com. RIP, still going strong on Twitter at FalcFans, and of course, the host of this illustrious Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And of course, we thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday, on your preferred podcast platform, including Apple Odyssey, Google, Spotify, and of course on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Falcons on YouTube. Give us a like, hit that bell, and you will get the video version of the podcast the night before the audio drops. So, guys, we're here for part two of the Falcons all-time draft series. Still workshopping that name. Any suggestions to improve that are gratefully accepted in the comments, or hit us up on Twitter at Locked On Falcons. But I'm here with former co-host of the Locked On Falcons podcast, Alan Strk, to continue our all-time draft series, where we'll just be basically drafting the best players throughout Falcons history to build our 12-man offensive rosters to go head-to-head power football versus whatever style of offense Alan is building over there with, some 84. I think there's a Cordero Patterson jersey or whatever he's rocking right now as his team.
There's a Reebok logo here, so I think you're a bit outdated, sir.
So, guys, if you missed part one, basically, we're doing a 12-round draft. We did 6 rounds on part one. We'll do round 7 through 12. We're picking just offensive players so far. Later in the week, as we continue the series, we'll flip the script and do the defensive side of the ball, 12 rounds there. Offense, the rules are snake draft. So I'll have the first pick because I had the most recent pick in round 6. Then Alan will pick twice, and then we'll finish that way. And there are only rules when it comes to constructing your offensive roster. You need at least one quarterback. You need 5 offensive linemen, and then it's up to you how you want to build out your skill position players. I stuck with the brand and went with Ovi Mihaly as my fullback. I had to get a fullback in there, locked on fullbacks and whatnot. So that's the plan for the strategy. If you missed those first 6 rounds, I went with Julio Jones, number 1. That was followed by Allen taking Matt Ryan and then Mike Kinn. Then I followed that up with Michael Turner and Alex Mack. Allen then went with Roddy White and Jeff Van Note. I followed that up with Bill Fralick and Tony Gonzalez. And then Allen went with William Andrews and Andre Rison. And I wrapped it up with, of course, the incomparable Ovi Mihaly. So that has been our drafts so far. I feel like, a couple of tight ends, some more wide receivers, and some offensive linemen will probably be coming off the board, and at least one quarterback for me. There you go. So anything you want to say, Alan, before we get started?
Oh, you broke it down beautifully, and I think the listeners are ready to see how we finish up these rosters.
Okay. Well, there's only 2 quarterbacks to take, so I'm still waiting on my quarterback. So
it's a great strategy. You have to give him props for that.
So I'm going to go with my first pick. Do I want to do this now or do I want to wait? I'll wait. So I'm going to go old school and get my guard now. And I'm going to go RC Thielemann with my guard pick.
I was targeted.
Right. Him and Bill Fralick were the top 2 guards on my board. So I'm going to, the guard is not strong with the Falcons, historically speaking. So I'll take the 2 best guards in Falcons history and screw Allen over on that interior offensive line.
Oh, that was hard, man. Your interior line is all set, and as you know, like the Falcons are notoriously pretty light there. There are not too many guards made my board. I'll
You
keep it at that.
you could tell. My strategy is based a lot off of doing the opposite of how the Falcons historically do things,
Yeah,
building up the interior offensive line.
Garrett Reynolds just couldn't make the cut, folks.
There you go. Who you got?
I feel like I'm gonna. So I unfortunately can't get a guard now because it's just way too early. But I'm gonna make sure I don't get left behind with the tight end. So I'm going with all-time greats. You already know. It's Alge Crumpler time. I gotta go with him. Thrilled about it. 4-time Pro Bowler. I think even though the resume doesn't quite, like, looking back on it, like, okay, maybe he wasn't like, he didn't have like the gaudy numbers, but his influence on those mid 2000 Falcon teams, it's the resume speaks for itself. Like, it's just what his influence with Michael Vick having that rapport, excuse me, and it's just like he carried that passing game. So I just think Alge Crumpler. Oddly enough, not in the Ring of Honor. I think Arthur Blank needs to get on that. If there's a next player that there's to be in a Ring of Honor, I think it should probably be Alge Crumpler. So, Arthur Blank, man, we got boost morale with the fan base. Let's get Alge Crumpler. Let's get him up there. So I'm gonna go with him. And then this is where it gets a little hard because I really wanted Big RC. Thing is now, like, you have this pressure where you don't want to leave the listeners waiting. So like I'm thinking like this isn't fantasy football where like, okay, I might have 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Like, you really don't have much time here because listeners don't want to hear dead air. So man, I'm gonna double up here. And it's going to be a little bit, I feel like I need to do a little bit of a better job of picking players that people are aware of because I'm trying to win people over, even though I feel like, the resume should speak for itself, but you got to go a little recent here. And I'm going to take, even though he's a little down my board, I'm going to take him, a former, several times on this podcast. We're doing the Dirty Bird, Jamal Anderson. Welcome to the squad.
Okay. All right. Ball was very high on my board. It was him or Michael Turner 1-2 on my board because again, it's all about that power football. Great pick there. Great pick. I'm glad that Jamal, is probably listening to us right now, and he was like, "Where am I at, guys? What are you doing me dirty? Waiting for till round 8 to take me." So Jamal, we had to play the game, but
I'm gonna have him in the backfield, Willie Andrews split out wide. And it's gonna be no Dirk Cutter nonsense. We're gonna figure out offensively what we're running.
There you go. Okay. So what I got? Do I have 2 picks? Yeah.
Yes,
2
sir.
picks. Okay. Do I finally take the quarterback, or do I start dipping in on these tackles? I'm gonna wait on the quarterback again, and I'm gonna get my second wide receiver. And I'm going to go with none other than Terrence Mathis as my number 2, the tag team with Julio Jones, my number 1. And, my all-time team not only is going to be able to block for this power football team, but they're going to be able to produce a hit record as well with my next pick. And that is none other than Bob Whitfield, who, opened up that studio space for some of Atlanta's greatest musicians back in the 90s. I'm sure he's still doing it. Don't know what Bob Whitfield's up to, but certainly one of the best tackles of all time, sort of bridging that gap between Mike Kinn and the rest of the Falcons offensive line in the 90s. So Bob Whitfield is my 9th round pick, I guess, is how we're at. All right. What are we? Yeah, you got one more pick. You can take your 1 pick, or you can take your 2 picks now if you want.
Okay, I'll go 1. I definitely have to go offensive line. I feel like it's been a long time since I've picked an offensive lineman, and there's definitely some out there. I'm gonna go with the tackle position. One of your true favorites. I'm going Tyson Claibo.
Okay. As I told you yesterday's episode, there's a glut of tackles here, right? And Bob Whitfield, Tyson Claibo, some other guys that I may or may not be taking, in the next round or two, or sort of all jumbled up right here. And so, Claibo's a great pick for you, my friend.
Yeah, only a one-time Pro Bowler, but I think that's a major injustice because to me, from 2008 to 2012, he was a top 5 right tackle. I just think year in and year out, you could always count on Tyson Claibo.
Yeah, I know, Falcon fans, especially if you're on the younger side, you may not remember the glory days of the Falcons having good right tackle, although we do represent Caleb McGarry Island here on Locked On Falcons. But whether it was Bob Whitfield starting out at right tackle, when Mike Kinn was there, going to Tyson Claibo, Ryan Schroeder, those guys, the Falcons had some good right tackle. Todd Weiner also, some of the top right tackles over the last, 20, 30 years. So we'll see if Caleb McGarry can sort of continue that legacy, or Jermaine Ifedi or whoever. But yeah, good
Boy,
pick.
you're reaching with that.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to keep it topical or whatever the case may be, but Falcons aren't on the best of times right now when it comes to their offensive line. But we won't have that problem, and we'll sort of wrap up, get a couple more offensive line picks as well as some skill position, and we'll find out what quarterback is going to be helming this power football team for me as we continue today's Falcons all-time draft series. So obviously we have more to come on today's Falcons all-time draft series, but want to take a moment to tell you guys about the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. And of course, I'm talking about betonline.net. Whether you're looking for podcasts or the latest odds, props, and contests, BetOnline has it all. Of course, you can check them out if you want to bet currently on Wimbledon, Major League Baseball, the U.S. Women's National Team, whether you want to bet on UFC, boxing, esports, Vegas casino games. You can bet on the NBA for next season, the NHL, the NFL. Of course, you want to bet on who's going to be next year's Stanley Cup champion, who's going to win it all in the NBA Finals, who's going to win the Super Bowl. You want to bet over-unders for the Falcons win totals. You want to bet on Offensive Rookie of the Year, MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that and more. You can find it all at betonline.net. So go take advantage by heading over to the website and learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So here, of course, with Alan Strk talking Falcons all-time draft series, we're a couple picks left in the offense, just 3 more picks for each of us. Alan, you're still on the clock. I hope you used your time wisely to come up with your next pick here.
Yes, I got it. And I actually had him above Terrence Mathis. And I love me some Terrence Mathis, such a durable, reliable player. True number 1 was on the legendary 918. But I do think there was a receiver better. And his name is Alfred Jenkins. Going a little old school here. Was just a one-time All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, but he actually led the league in touchdowns and yards in 1981. And even though I don't think he had a super long run with the Falcons, I do think he had incredible numbers and had a big influence on the franchise. So I'm excited that he is my 3rd receiver.
There you go. Okay. Now I got 3 more picks left. We know one of them is a quarterback. I can wait on that. So I need to get my second tackle here. And what did I do? I'm sorry. Okay. I'm confused now.
Draft board is malfunctioning.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot, when I took, whoever, it doesn't matter. Okay. So for me, yeah, I'll just, I'll go with Jake Matthews, right? He'll give me all right tackle. He did spend a summer at right tackle before, the collapse of Sam Baker.
Yeah.
Back in 2014. But he has that experience. He could be my right tackle, and Whitfield played right tackle as well, so I can figure out who's sort of the best combination, in terms of left versus right, moving forward. So Jake Matthews is going to be my bookend tackle here, and my second pick. Okay. I'm going to sit here, and this is going to be the shocker of the day. So I'll save this, the quarterback pick for the next pick. But I wanted to go with a 2 tight end offense. I want to, pay homage to Arthur Smith and his 2 tight end offense. And, I was hoping I would get Alge Crumpler, but I felt like I would do you dirty, Alan. I wanted to solidify my offensive line.
Hold on, folks. Let's. This is a shocking moment. Aaron actually has empathy. I never thought I'd see this. I know him as a ruthless human being.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with this tight end pick. And this is I'm taking a flyer on this guy, because now we're I could go with Austin Hooper, I could go with Jim Mitchell, but you know what? I say screw it. This is my team. I'm gonna hitch my wagon to this guy. I'm gonna go with Kyle Pitts. Like I know he's only played 1 year with the team, but like I'm taking a bet that this pick is gonna look like a genius pick this early, even if and when we revisit this down the road, that I'm like, hey, Aaron was willing to roll the dice on Kyle Pitts only off of 1 year, that he's going to be soon, within a couple of seasons, be a no-brainer pick for any future all-time draft series. So Kyle Pitts right now off the board for me.
Wow. Not the player I would envision fitting the power football motto, but you want that versatility.
Yeah, well, I got Ovi Mahaley, so he's worth like 3 blocking tight ends. So
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Interesting pick. I did not see it coming. I was thinking tight end. I was thinking maybe OJ Santiago or
Reggie Kelly, baby. Yeah.
We don't need that. But all right, wow. I just to let the listener know, Kyle Pitts was not on my draft board. I thought it was a little too early, but hey, you can't hate on the pick, man. What he's shown so far, he has all the makings to being someone that could be, who knows, maybe a top 10 player on this list within 4 to 5 years. That's
what I'm betting on.
That's your betting. Okay. So I have the final 2 picks here. I need to go offensive line because currently I only have Mike Henn, Jeff Van Note, and Tyson Claibo. So clearly my interior needs some serious work. And we're going to be moving some pieces around. This is not going to be a totally solidified offensive line. Even though I'm banking on talent, it's going to be a little bit fragmented. And he's going to have to show some versatility here. But you know what? He played with the franchise for over a decade. He's going to be my right guard. A former guest on this illustrious show, Todd Mcclure. Welcome to the team. Oh, I'm excited, baby. A true fan favorite.
There you go, the Mud Duck.
Absolutely. He's going to have that mohawk, too. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then a final pick. Unfortunately, I'm going to be taking from your 2010 model because I need a guard, and he's best available. Wasn't his biggest fan, but you know what? You got to respect the years he put in, and he ended up being arguably – he can hold it together because one offensive lineman can't hold together an offensive line. But he was the best of a very bad bunch. But you know what? Justin Blaylock, we need you. He's joined the team as well.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to make sure, no offense to Justin Blaylock, but I didn't want to have to settle for Justin Blaylock on my offensive line. So that's why I prioritized the interior earlier. Yeah. Because, had I taken Alge when I wanted to take RC Thielman, I think I probably would wind up with Justin Blaylock. So I figured, I had Kyle Pitts in my back pocket, so I knew I would be able to get a good tight end.
Well done.
Okay, so my final pick is the quarterback. Not, last but not least. Of course, I'm taking Michael Vick. And we're just, he's going to hand the ball off to Michael Turner, and then he can just scramble around and throw the ball up to Tony Gonzalez and Kyle Pitts and Julio Jones, and I feel like my offense is going to cook quite a bit. I got the offensive line.
Julio Jones. You might just win it purely off that. Like, the people are going to vote for you just because you have Michael Vick and Julio Jones, which is not right, damn it. You got to look at the teams.
There you go.
I mean, you got the star power when you think about it.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that, Alan.
You have a very stern look on your face right now.
No,
I just did this.
I'm trying to. I'm looking at the list to make sure I have everybody that you drafted, and I'm like, wait, who was the other? Who was your Tyson Claibo? Okay, there it is. I was like, who was the other tackle that you got? How could I forget Tyson Claibo? So we'll sort of recap our drafts so far now that our offenses are fully assembled as we continue today's Falcons all-time draft series. And guys, of course, still got more to come on today's Falcons all-time draft series, where we're looking to find the right parts to build the best Falcons offense ever, but you're also looking for the right parts for your car and truck so that it can run smoothly. And the best place to go is, of course, Rock Auto. With ever increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why wait while the person behind the counter orders parts on their computer when you already have access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket? Save time and money when using Rock Auto instead of spending up to twice as much for the same parts from a car dealership or chain store. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years with reliably low prices for every single customer. They have everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Just go to rockauto.com, browse their easy-to-use website, and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So, okay, to recap the Falcons all-time draft series. All right, we have our finalized rosters. We have, for me, at quarterback, I have Michael Vick. Running back, I have Michael Turner. Fullback, of course, I have Ovi Mahaley. 2 wide receivers are Julio Jones, Terrence Mathis. We're going 12 personnel with Tony Gonzalez and Kyle Pitts. Basically, I have 4 wide receivers, if we're being honest. And then on my offensive line, from left to right, I have Bob Whitfield, R.C. Thielman, Alex Mack, Bill Fralick, and Jake Matthews. For Allen's team at quarterback, he has the incomparable Matt Ryan. 2 running backs are William Andrews and Jamal Anderson. His 3 receivers are Alfred Jenkins, Roddy White, and Andre Rison. Tight end, he has Alge Crumpler. Tackles or offensive line from presumably left to right, he has Mike Kinn, Justin Blaylock, Jeff Van Note, Todd McClure, the Mud Duck, playing guard, and Tyson Claibo as his right tackle. So, Alan, you happy with your team?
Strong 2010, I just realized. 3 of the 5.
There you go.
Yeah. People forget how good that 2010 O-line was.
Those early, I've talked about that recently. Those early Falcons offensive lines that they had around Matt Ryan were, I think, a big part of why he was able to have as much early success as he did in the league. We'll see if Desmond Ridder will have the same fortune with Jalen Mayfield and Caleb McGarry and all those guys, but we'll see. How are you feeling about your team, Alan, though?
Absolutely love my team. Offensive line, I wish the interior was better. That's, I guess, the one down note, because we're going to talk about the board now, what we put together, but it just seemed like there were a lot of good tackles and good centers as well. Like, there was definitely an array of very good centers picked, but the guards were very light. So I'm a little down that my guards are looking pretty weak. Like, if you draft some nasty D tackles, it could be a problem there. But we're talking about my receivers. Oh boy, we're going to score some touchdowns. I got a monster tight end, and then the running backs, it's going to be just crazy mismatches left and right. And then I got the best quarterback in franchise history, and in my opinion, the best player in franchise history.
Okay. That's fair. I won't deny that, because I know that there will be some polls. I kind of geared my draft to some recency bias. When we didn't we do an all-time draft several years ago? And we had listeners vote for that, or am I confusing another show that I did?
I think you're confusing our show, because I do not recall this. And my memory is very good.
I'm realizing that it was the other podcast I used to do, Falcon Central Radio, that we did an all-time draft series. And I remember Deion Jones winning a poll against Jesse Tuggle, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like, you guys killing me with these." So I know that
I'm gonna report that if I find it.
The people, kind of skew a little younger. And sort of more recency bias. So I'm hoping that will lead to me sort of winning some of these votes. But, I'm sure some of you guys will vote against my team out of spite. But I'm happy with my team. My strategy. I knew you would probably go Matt Ryan pretty early. If not your number 1 pick, you're probably your number 2 pick. I was worried about the Julio Jones thing, if you would throw me a curveball there. And so I kind of knew, even though I 100% agree with you, Matt Ryan, best quarterback of all time, settling for Michael Vick is you're not really settling. So no. I felt pretty good that I'd be able to get a good quarterback regardless of where you went. So my strategy was to build that power football roster. So that's why I prioritized Michael Turner. That's why I prioritized Ovi Mahaley and prioritize that interior offensive line as well. Just because as you mentioned, it wasn't a strong group historically. We have a bunch of good centers. We don't have a ton of good guards. And like Chris Lindstrom was the next guard on my list. And so I was
Wow. Okay.
seriously, in the same vote of a Kyle Pitts that, I probably would have wound up potentially taking Chris Lindstrom
Okay.
instead of Justin Blaylock, just because, got to give a vote of confidence for the future of the guys who will be on the all-time great lists in the future, no brainers in the future.
Okay. So that's a good segue into our next segment of which players on our board that didn't get drafted. So I'll give a quick breakdown of mine. So I had Gerald Riggs literally number 9, and I probably should have taken him, but I just felt like I needed the power back. So that's why I took Jamal Anderson. But to me, I think it's a big shock Gerald Riggs did not get picked.
Yeah, I mean, that's owed to me basically not taking 2 actual running backs. And I could have taken Gerald Riggs over Kyle Pitts, but yeah, he was one of the highest guys left on my board. But the Falcons have a lot of good running backs.
Yes.
There was a world where I wouldn't have had any problem taking Devontae Freeman or Warwick Dunn on this thing. Obviously that doesn't fit my sort of power of football brand, but yeah, man, we've had a lot of good running backs over the years, and Riggs is the all-time leader rushing, right, in Falcons history.
So that goes into my next one. So I had 15 Warwick Dunn, which I was really considering him too. I had Jamal Anderson at 17, but I just really wanted to take at least one power back. So that's why I preferred taking Anderson over Dunn. But Dunn was up there for me. 24, I had Ryan Schroeder, who I seriously considered, but I gave the slight nod to Claibo because I feel like Claibo had more longevity. If you look at Schroeder, he really only had 3 real above average years or great years as a right tackle, while Claibo to me had 5. So that's why I went Claibo over Schroeder. But I love Ryan Schroeder. On a personal note, also him and Ricardo Allen, always players I could go for interviews. They were always great to me. So it did hurt not to take Ryan Schroeder, who I think absolutely deserves to be on this list. But I had to go Claibo just purely off the form.
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly say that if we're looking at who are the top 5 tackles of all time, Ryan Schroeder is probably firmly in that number 5 spot. Although, another player that I had high on my draft board in that same vicinity with all these tackles and guards that doesn't get enough love historically, from Falcon fans is Chris Hinton, who was the right tackle for the Falcons in the 90s in those run and shoot days. But was a very good player, didn't have nearly as much success in Atlanta as he had earlier in his career because he was a little bit older when the Falcons picked him up in the 90s, but was a multi-Pro Bowl left tackle for the Colts for many years in those late 80s. And he was a guy that was also in the mix, given, and I was considering, sort of taking him as a guard because I think there was one year where he did play guard for the Falcons and actually made the Pro Bowl that one year that he played guard for the Falcons. So he was in the mix for me. But yeah, Schroeder was up there, Lindstrom, Gerald Riggs. I was actually sitting here thinking there's a scenario where I might have to take Tony Martin as the wide receiver. And, Alan and I, when we were sort of coming up with this thing and we were talking back and forth, and he kind of let the cat out of the bag that he wasn't going to be taking any sort of one and done players. Clearly I didn't believe in that basically by taking Kyle Pitts, but I was when I was looking at this group of wide receivers, after you get past like the 5 that we wound up taking, then
big drop off.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, Tony Martin, as far as a one-year wonder, that guy, I don't know if the Falcons make it to the Super Bowl in 98 without Tony Martin and doing all the things that he did. So I would certainly make an argument for him potentially being 6 over pretty much anybody else you could take historically Falcons.
Right. Because to me, it's Julio, Roddy, Andre Rison, Alfred Jenkins, Terrence Mathis, and after that, it's a decline. To me, just it's not much there. So just to finish my list quickly, I had Devontae Freeman 25. Just definitely deserves to be on the list. It's just not enough room for running backs. A guy who I thought you might have seriously considered that is definitely made my list, even though he was on a team long 27. Craig Hayward.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to put him on there. I think huge fan favorite. I remember Jamal Anderson always talking him up when we did podcasts with him. I just man. He had even though he was on those weird mid-90s Falcons teams, he put up some serious numbers, and he's kind of a throwback running back. You want to talk about power football?
Yeah, that's definitely power football right there.
That's the guy. And then to round it out, someone I'm surprised you didn't consider, Keenan Forney. I had him on my list.
I He was, if I had 36 players on my board, he would have been 36 on my board.
Okay, he was 28 on mine. So I just think longevity wise, I wanted to put him there. I actually had Calvin Ridley, which I know is a controversial pick. I
Yeah.
actually seriously considered Calvin because to me, I think looking at receivers all time, he's already up there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we just talked about Tony Martin. Like, you could make a case that Calvin Ridley is number 6 on that list.
he was the second team All Pro member in 2020. So I was like, why not? I would have seriously taken him if I didn't load up on receiver, which I ended up doing. But I had that. And then the last two on my board, 30, I had Todd Weiner, purely off longevity. I never highly rate him, but I just think he put in some good years. And I was like, all right, why not? And then ironically, so I did not have Tony Martin. I actually had Michael Haynes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I had Michael Haynes. He was
my last
him,
guy.
Eric Metcalf, Jim Mitchell, Austin Hooper were also on my draft board at the very bottom.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I knew that it was unlikely that I would get to these guys at any point, but just in case you threw a couple of curveballs, I wanted to have all my bases covered.
Okay, nice. I'm curious because we want to give our full rankings, but what was your top 10?
In terms of my board,
Yeah, offensively.
Yeah, obviously these are not the 10 guys I think are the all-time best. This is just based off of my strategy of how I wanted to build my roster. So I went Julio 1, Michael Turner 2, Roddy 3, Jamal Anderson 4. So I wanted to get, clearly my strategy was to get 2 out of those guys, right? At the running back and wide receiver. So that's how I stacked my board. And then Mike Kin was number 5, Alex Mack was 6, Bill Fralick was 7, Tony and Alge were 8 and 9, and then Matt Ryan was 10, Vic was 11. So that was
Vic was 11 on mine too.
Okay.
Yeah, he just borderline missed top 10, but obviously Vic is up there. I had Ryan 1, Julio 2, Mike Ken 3, Roddy White 4, 5, Jeff Van Note, 6, Tony Gonzalez, 7, Bill Fralick, 8, William Andrews, 9, Gerald Riggs. Still kind of can't believe he didn't get drafted. That's the one I'm starting to feel a little iffy on. But man, we just had to take Jamal Anderson. Power football, man. And then 10, I actually had Alex Mack. You look at Alex Mack, man, he had a really stellar run. Like I think looking like a few years from now, I think people will appreciate Alex Mack even more. I think he is still very much appreciated, but I think even more coming the next few years.
Yeah,
he does get forgotten about a little bit, maybe because he's been on some bad Falcon teams, so that could play a factor. But man, Mack was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we have to wait a couple of years for people to appreciate Alex Mack because, we might be appreciating having a good center in a couple of months, but we'll see how that plays out. But, shout out to Drew Dalman. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Alan, before we close out?
I'm a little disappointed you didn't ask me if I had Mohamed Sanu on my list.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, man. I did not think Mohamed Sanu's name was going to come up at all on these episodes. But, of course, leave it to you, Alan. You have to bring it up. So
I mean, I wasn't considering any like Harry Douglas or Brian Ferdinand. There's just no way. I just couldn't do it. But I was wondering maybe it was new. I was a little surprised to hear Austin Hooper. I did not give him a thought.
It's like tight. It's basically Tony and Crumpler at the top.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to go old school with Jim Mitchell, I guess, all-time Falcon or whatever the case may be, but you could probably make a decent case since Hooper, did go to the Pro Bowl twice, that he's number 3 on that list. So that was my thought process. But, obviously I went with Kyle Pitts, who's going to, within, 2 years is going to surpass Austin Hooper's Pro Bowls very shortly, in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that's it for, the offense for the all-time draft series. We still obviously have more to come talking defense, and we'll be getting into that, the first 6 rounds on tomorrow's episode as we continue this all-time draft series. Of course, if you want to leave a comment, tell why, one person's offense is better than the other, of course, leave a comment here on Locked On Falcons. Hit me up via email, lockedonfalcons@mail.com. Hit me up on Twitter at Locked On Falcons or Facebook at Locked On Falcons. Of course, Alan is available on Twitter as well at Alan Strk. That's ALLENSTRK. Tell Alan, why you secretly love his team. And, finally, whatever Aaron Freeman base slander that you want to throw at him, you can hit him up on Twitter. I'm sure he'll be all receptive for it and be able to throw some shade at me and dig up some dirt from the past on me, but whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm rambling now at the end of the show. So Guys, appreciate it. We got more to come. Till then. So, guys, that's going to do it for us here on part 2 of the Falcons All-Time Draft Series. Thanks to my co-host, Alan Strk. Check him out on Twitter at ALLENSTRK. And tomorrow we'll be back with part 3 of this 4-part series, talking about the defense. We'll be making our first selections there. Make sure you participate in the polls that are up on Twitter at Locked On Falcons' Twitter page. One will go up each day this week after each episode, and then at the end of the week you can sort of weigh in on who had the best team overall. You can also check them out on the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel in the community tab and whatnot. Couldn't figure out how to put up a poll on Facebook. I used to be able to do that, but now apparently I can't. But that's just proof that Facebook has gone by the wayside. So I apologize for anybody who's listening to this podcast via Facebook, but go on over to Twitter, go to the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel, and you can cast your vote there. Of course, you can provide your feedback as well via Facebook if you want to send a message there, or of course you can send an email to lockedonfalcons@mail.com. Leave a comment on the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel. So obviously still got more stuff to come. If you want to know what's coming after the All-Time Draft Series, we will do a Q&A on Friday. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback that you want to provide for that upcoming Q&A at the end of the week, of course, the sooner you get those questions in, the more likely that you'll get your question answered. So you can hit up all those other aforementioned addresses, Twitter, Facebook, email, and of course the YouTube comments to get your questions asked about that. All right, guys, that will do it for us. Appreciate it. Till then.